I am a nature writer, a nature book author, naturalist, and certified forest therapy guide. This book is my 7th nature book. And most of my books take years to write. And I spend a lot of time in the field, a lot of time researching, and spend years. For this book, I had 10 days to write it. It's part of a series that my publisher did on resilience. He wanted to help people with coping skills for the time we're living in now. So my book is about connecting with nature. There's a book on resilience, dealing with anxiety, a book about dealing with loss. There's a wonderful book about the power of storytelling. So it's a whole series of 10 books. All of the authors wrote them within 2 weeks. And then from start to finish, the books were published in like 6 weeks, from March to May. So it was quite an extraordinary thing. And it was really wonderful to have this focus during a really trying time, to have this focus. Now, the photograph on the cover of the book is Rapids Bridge. Some of you may recognize Rapids Bridge in Rock Creek Park. It's taken by Susan Austin Roth, who did all the photography for a year in Rock Creek Park. She's very talented. And the lady in red on the bridge is Kate Maynor. And for those of you who were on the Nature Journaling Naturalist Hour last week, that was led by Kate. And so that's kind of a cool connection there. I just want to tell you a little bit about where I came from and how I developed my love of nature. Like so many of you, I developed a strong love of nature as a child. I grew up in Vermont, and my parents gave us lots of freedom. So I started wandering the hills and fields from a really young age. And then when I moved to Washington as a young woman with my husband, when he started law school, I was looking for a job as a journalist. I had been the news director for a radio station in New Hampshire, and I thought I would just kind of breeze into town and be the next Connie Chung. And that did not happen. But something much more wonderful happened, which was I fell in love with the trees of Washington. And we were living on Capitol Hill, and I went right over to the Capitol grounds and made all these friends. These trees around the Capitol have been my dear friends now for more than 40 years. The grounds are designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, who also designed Central Park. And what I discovered, I wanted to know what all of these trees were that I was seeing in my Capitol Hill neighborhood and all around the city. And I couldn't get to first base with my Peterson guide because so many of them are from other parts of the world. So I got this bug in my head to write a book about the trees of Washington. When I started researching the trees, I discovered that the history of the trees was as fascinating as their botanical diversity. And at that time, you could go into the old main reading room of the Library of Congress, the big round reading room. There were card catalogs all around, with the actual cards in them. And you could pull up cards and take them to the librarian, and then she or he would bring you books to your desk in the main reading room. So I started reading all about how George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were serious tree lovers, Frederick Douglass, both the Roosevelts, and just discovered all of this history behind the city of trees, and also that Washington had been known as the city of trees since the early 20th century. So that's probably more information than you wanted, but I love thinking back on that time and how my life just took this turn toward nature writing, to leading field trips, teaching courses, and just really being focused on nature, not just in my personal life, but in my professional life. And these are the books that I have written. 3 of them were illustrated by Tina Theme Brown, who I think is with us today. She is an ANS field trip leader and workshop artist who leads workshops for ANS. She illustrated both Sugarloaf books and the book on the right, which is about Theodore Roosevelt Island. And I'm going to be doing a Naturalist Hour in October focused on the island. So the reason I'm showing you these books, the main reason I'm showing them to you, is because they are all about my backyard. I have always been a big believer in connecting with nature close to home. It's what I've done all my life. And it's wonderful to travel, and it's very stimulating and educational to go to new places and learn the ecology and the bird life and mammals and reptiles and amphibians and plants of new places. It's very exciting. But our main relationship with nature is what happens with us right close to home. And so all of these books are about the places that I just explore every day. City of Trees, the two Sugarloaf books. My husband and I moved out to Sugarloaf Mountain. We lived at the base of Sugarloaf Mountain for 20 years, and that's where our kids grew up. And then the whole family kind of dragged me kicking and screaming back to town. We now live in Chevy Chase, and I was a little bereft at first, and then I fell in love with Rock Creek Park, and that was my salvation. And I wrote the book, A Year in Rock Creek Park. And then I was really taken with this kingfisher that I met on Theodore Roosevelt Island. And the kingfisher lured me into writing a book about the island. So that's coming out next month. I love leading field trips and tree tours. I love, people often say to me, don't you miss Vermont? Don't you wish you lived in Vermont? I love Vermont. I go there every chance I get, and New Hampshire. We're going up to the White Mountains this summer. But I love the Washington area, and I love our seasons. I love this picture here. I'm leading a tree tour on the Capitol grounds, and you can see the dogwood is blooming, and I have gloves on. And one of the things I just love about our area is how unpredictable the weather can be and how changeable, and how we have these 4 delightful seasons. And as far as wild beauty goes, it's really an embarrassment of riches in this area. And some of you were talking about dolly sods before we started today. So, right in the Washington area, we have so much natural beauty. And then, we can get to dolly sods, and what is it? About 4 hours from here. We can get to the ocean, the Blue Ridge Mountains. We are really blessed here with natural beauty, which has been such a blessing during this time when our mobility has been so limited. So primarily I have connected with nature as a naturalist whose main love is plants, especially trees and wildflowers. But a few years ago, I was leading a field trip in Rock Creek Park, and one of my field trip participants, who some of you know, I think you may have been in class with her on trips with her, Andrea Brown, brought me an article about something called forest bathing. The Japanese term is shindin-yoku, and forest bathing is a translation of that. And I read this article, and it just really resonated with me. What forest bathing is it's a very simple thing. It's just slowing down, breathing deeply, and tuning in to the beauty and wonder of nature through all your senses. And I read this article, and I just thought, this is for me. This is what I've been doing all my life, and I want to know more about it, and I would love to become a guide. So I wrote this book after taking a forest bathing trip to Japan that I'll talk about a little bit. And then this went a little farther than my backyard because it's been published in Finland and in Spain. And that's just kind of a testament to how much forest bathing has resonated with people all around the world since it started in Japan. So I will get back to that and talk about forest bathing and sort of walk you through the steps of a forest bathing walk. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about our area and about this time we've been living in. So, when the pandemic really started to hit here and we were, instructed to stay at home, that coincided with the beginning of spring. And we had the most beautiful flowering spring in Washington. And it has segued into this rich, verdant summer. And I know it has been super hot. I keep hearing, we're breaking records. It's been in the 90s for so many days. I have not felt uncomfortable. And I think part of the reason is that the air is so clean and clear. And I just have been feasting my eyes on our beautiful skies night and day. And the quiet, of not being bombarded with airplane travel and traffic on the roads being so much less. I think, you know, this is a tragic, difficult, challenging time, and not just because of the pandemic, but for all the other things going on in our country. Yet I think for nature lovers, there have been some real silver linings, and the sky and the quiet is one of them. I show you these two pictures that were taken by Anna Ka'ahanui, who is my dear friend. She is the co-founder of Capital Nature. She did a wonderful Naturalist hour a couple of weeks ago about the iNaturalist app. I'll talk about that a little bit. And she's going to do another presentation for the Naturalist hour in September, which I'll also talk about. These two pictures of hers really show kind of the two sides of natural beauty in the Washington area. The cultivated beauty that we associate with our cherry trees, our magnolias, our beautiful gardens and parks, and then the wild beauty symbolized by these beautiful Virginia bluebells. We have, you know, we have so many incredible gardens and parks. We have all this amazing, all these amazing wild areas along the Potomac River, the Anacostia River, Rock Creek. We're just really blessed with so much natural beauty. And there is drama all around us. And I think, I mean, this is something that all of us as nature lovers live with all the time, is it's just all the drama, the wonderful drama in nature. I think a lot of people who are not as tuned into nature as most of us have discovered during this time, when, you know, they can't get to their offices, the restaurants and bars and movie theaters have been closed. All of these other avenues of entertainment have been shut down, and people have turned to nature, and it just really warms my heart to know that. And, you know, one of the things, if you've been out with me, you know that I often talk about the importance of adopting a wild home. You know, we have our homes that we live in, and then the homes outside our doors. You know, I think that getting to know a place is just one of the best ways to connect with nature. It's very much like getting to know a person. When you meet someone for the first time, you learn their name. You know, you may notice this person has a sense of humor, she's very warm and intelligent, but it's only when you get to know the person over time, over many years, that you see all the dimensions and all the moods of that person. And it's the same thing in nature. If we really connect with a particular place, we have a relationship with that place that grows over time. And it will continue to comfort us with the familiar and also delight us with the new, because no matter how well you know a person or a place, they're always surprising you. And I think that's the thing about, you know, places that I love. You know, I come to expect that the spring beauties will come up in the spring, and the bloodroot and the box elder buds will pop. And, you know, I'm expecting all these things when I go to Rock Creek Park, which is my wild home now. But, you know, there's always the surprise. You know, you didn't expect that great blue heron to be around the bend in the creek. You didn't expect that ebony jewel wing to fly by right at that moment. I mean, there's always surprises in nature. So it's just one of the, you know, for me, it's one of the most compelling and important parts of my life, is how I relate to places that I know. So when you adopt a wild home, yes, do you have a question?
Yeah, we have a comment from Diana. She says that she struggles with adopting a wild home because she's being hurt by so much development in this area. For example, she loved a tangled patch of woods outside her workplace and loved to see a fox who lived there. It was turned down and it's now condos. She almost feels too hurt to find a new wild home because I know she knows she will lose it, and if it's not explicitly protected.
That is a heartbreaking story. I really, really feel for you. There's nothing sadder than having that happen. all I can say is I hope you do find another place. I hope that, another place comes into your life and into your heart, and you can feel as attached to it as you did to this place. But all I can say is I really, really feel for you. And it brings up the point that when you have a wild home, you want to protect it. And, you can't always protect it, but there are things you can do as stewards of that, as a steward of that place to protect it. And when you are very connected to a particular place, you're going to want to do all you can as an activist, as, taking care of the invasive plants, protecting it from unwanted development if you can. And we fight the battles we can, and we don't win all of them. We don't, and our hearts are broken. I mean, I think back over the last 40 years of all the battles we have lost out around Sugarloaf Mountain, and, in all the places that I've lived, we've also won some. So we just do what we can. And I think it's really important that we don't lose our faith in the resilient power of nature. So your wild home can be anything. It can be your backyard. It can be just a porch or a balcony. It can be a garden, any place that you find nearby where you can connect with natural beauty. And I mentioned that Rock Creek Park is my wild home. During the pandemic, I have come to consider my backyard more and more my wild home. So I kind of feel now like I have two wild homes. This is my view out my sunroom window. That's my hammock that I ordered right after we were told to stay at home in Maryland. The first thing I did was order a hammock. I have to say, my husband and I, we're usually so busy, we hardly pay attention to our yard. Now we are so connected. We watched all of those roses bloom in the spring. We ate every raspberry that we could get to. We've bonded with all the birds in the yard. We have a toad that lives in the cellar hole out next to our front door. And we had the porch painted this week. And I was out there vigilantly telling the young men painting to be careful, don't disturb the toad, don't disturb the toad. And I was so happy to see this morning the toad was back. And so was my husband. We went out and, we were just talking to the toad and so happy that it was okay. And we've just really connected with this immediate surroundings and with our neighborhood, just on long neighborhood walks under the trees. When I started my book, I sent out an email to a lot of my friends around the country asking them, how are you connecting with nature during the pandemic, and has your relationship with nature changed? I also asked them about this concept of a wild home. And my friend Sadie Dingfelder, who some of you may know from her Washington Post byline, she lives on the 10th floor of an apartment building near Nats Park. It's a very urban part of the city. And she made friends with these pigeons. You can see this is a pigeon couple that comes to visit her every day. And you can see how well she has bonded there with the pigeon on the right. And I want to read you what she wrote to me. This is quoting her in the book. So Sadie wrote, I have a newfound appreciation for my tiny porch. I live on the 10th floor of an apartment building in DC's most densely populated neighborhood, and I've discovered a patch of urban wilderness I never knew existed right outside of my sliding glass doors. I write every morning looking through them, and I've made the acquaintance of a pair of dark-colored pigeons, both of whom have a few wing feathers that are pure white. When I'm on the occasional grocery run, I sometimes see that they too are out and about in the neighborhood. I love that. That book she's reading looks pretty interesting too. So I'm going to talk about, how we can learn more as naturalists during this time. And I also want to talk about nature immersion as a mindfulness practice. And I know a lot of people who have mindfulness practices, whether meditation, yoga, or Tai Chi, or something else, have been taking their practices outdoors. I mean, sometimes just because the household is now so busy that they can get a little peace when they're outside. And I think any of our mindfulness practices, when we take them outside, we get that extra benefit of a nature connection. And then there's forest bathing, or Shindin-yoku. And I use these terms interchangeably: forest bathing, forest therapy, nature immersion. All it is just full immersion in the beauty and wonder of nature. And I mentioned that I went to Japan on a forest bathing trip. It was in the fall of 2017. And I was with a small group. We traveled throughout the country, and we went on walks that were led by Japanese Shindin-yoku guides. It was wonderful. And some of the things that I loved to see when I was in Japan were, first of all, on the left here, let's see if this pointer works. Oh, are you seeing a pointer? Is it working?
I don't see it.
Okay, never mind the pointer. I don't need it. There are these signs on the highways. In Japan, they now have over 60 forests that are dedicated to forest bathing. And when you're driving down the highway, you see these signs that are directing you to the healing forests. That is my kind of billboard. And then on the right, this is a little tiny Shinto shrine with the red roof. And this was in a historic town on the old route between Tokyo and Kyoto, the old historic route. And you see these Shinto shrines everywhere. And they often will have sacred trees next to them. You see the tree there has a rope around it with some white tassels hanging down. That is a sacred tree. And a love and reverence for nature is woven into all of the Japanese traditions, the Zen Buddhist traditions, the Shinto traditions, all the folk and art traditions are just infused with the love of nature. So that is what forest bathing arises from. The term Shindin-yoku, which translates pretty directly as forest bathing or forest bath from the Japanese, it was coined in the 1980s by the Forest Agency in Japan. And, people in Tokyo is a very intense urban environment. And people there, if you can believe it, they work longer hours than we do here. And there's even a Japanese phrase for death by work. So the Forestry Agency wanted to encourage people to get out of the cities, visit the beautiful forests throughout the country, and just relax and, sit by the water, sit under the trees, smell the flowers, smell the twigs, and just become rejuvenated. So it became a very, very popular practice in Japan. There's clearly a spiritual component to it. However, forest therapy is an evidence-based practice. There has been a ton of health research done. There are two researchers in Japan that really got it started, Dr. Lee and Dr. Miyazaki. Dr. Lee is at Nippon Medical School. Dr. Miyazaki is at Chiba University. And they started studying the health benefits of spending quiet time in nature. And now, there have been studies done all over the world. And these are some of the health benefits that have been found from spending time in nature: lower blood pressure, slower pulse rate, increased heart rate variability, which is a good thing, lower cortisol levels. If you have high cortisol levels, that can indicate that you're under stress. And this is really exciting. A boost to the immune system with an increase in NK, or natural killer cells. When you spend time in nature, you are actually boosting your immune system. And then quicker recovery from illness and surgery. There were even some studies that showed if you were in a hospital bed with a view of trees outside your window, you would recover more quickly. This is the little group I traveled with in Japan. The good guy in the black hat in the middle is Amos Clifford. He started an organization called the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy in Northern California. And that organization has trained hundreds of forest bathing or forest therapy guides all around the world. And I trained with them. That's where I have my certification. The woman in the foreground is his wife, Michelle Lott. She's a designer. And then the two guys in the back, they've got little sticks in their mouths. They're getting their salivary amylase tested, which it's an enzyme that can indicate stress. That's Michael Stusser, the older gentleman, and Jamie Trost, the younger one, who was our translator. They are both forest bathing guides. And all of us are in Okatama, which is about 2 hours from Tokyo. We're about to go on a forest bathing walk, so we're getting all of our vital signs checked. And then on the right, I have this little booklet around my neck. We were given those booklets, and as we traveled to all the forest therapy bases throughout the country, we had our vital signs taken before and after every walk and recorded the data in them. And we were also participating in their research. You know, they were recording our data. My blood pressure went down during every forest bathing walk. And the longer I was in Japan, the lower it got. It was really cool to see. And then we went to Dr. Miyazaki's lab at Chiba University. And this is one of his research assistants. She's putting this gear around my head to measure the brain waves in the frontal part of my brain. And then Dr. Miyazaki showed me an intense urban scene on the screen in front of me, and then followed that up with a forest scene. And my brain waves on the graph, you could see them relaxing. It was really, really cool. So in addition to the physical health benefits of spending time in nature, the mental health benefits are just as important. And I think for all of us, you know, because we all spend time in nature, this is kind of a duh thing, you know. When you're out in nature, you have elevated mood, duh. We know that. However, it may be duh for us, but having this research, having this data, convinces a lot of people who would not necessarily prioritize spending time in nature that it's a good thing for them. So it's really great that this, in my opinion, it's a really great thing that all this research is being done. So when you spend time in nature, you have elevated mood, improved focus, a decrease in ruminative thinking, and this is huge. I know this from my own life. Ruminative thought is, it's like a negative thought pattern when you just keep turning something over and over in your mind and you're not getting anywhere with it. You go out in nature and that thought process can just dissolve almost like magic. They did a study at Stanford University. They had two groups. One group walked in a grassland with oak trees and shrubs, and another one walked, you know, near a highway. And there were changes in the brain in the brains of the people who were in the natural area, and they all got relief from ruminative thinking, whereas the group that was not walking in nature did not. So that's huge. Spending time in nature is very relaxing. You sleep better, and you get a huge boost in imagination and creativity, and you especially see this when you're with children. So when we were in Japan, Amos Clifford, who founded the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, he and I were just green with envy the whole time over the infrastructure they had for forest bathing. And this is an example. This is a yoga platform that's in a Hinoki cypress forest in Okatama. We had been on a 2-hour forest bathing walk with a guide, and then we landed at this platform, and there was a yoga instructor there waiting for us to lead us in a restorative yoga practice. It was pretty darn cool. They also have signs, I mean, they're tastefully placed along the trails about the benefits of spending time in nature. This one here is about something that's often called pink noise, and pink noise is those are the sounds in nature that are very relaxing for us. The sound of flowing water, the sound of birds singing, the sound of the breeze in the trees. All of these things are very beneficial to us to hear. So I just want to kind of take you on the steps of a forest bathing walk. I know some of you have been on forest bathing walks with me, and I hope I will be leading them again soon. It's just a very, very simple, simple process to do your own forest bathing walk. The first thing you want to do is to unplug. And I tell people, think of the airplane mode on your phone as forest bathing mode. You want to turn off your phone. That in and of itself is therapeutic. Unless your walk is virtual. And I have been leading some virtual forest bathing walks where we do keep our phones on. But ordinarily you want to unplug, and then you want to settle yourself in a place where you feel very comfortable and safe, and breathe deeply. And, a lot of us have breathing practices from, other mindfulness practices that we do. So you can do your yoga breathing or how you breathe when you meditate. But all it is really is just breathing deeply, letting your belly expand a little bit, slowly breathing in and slowly breathing out. When you breathe, when you're in nature, it connects you with all the life around you. You're taking in the fresh oxygen from the trees and other plants. You're also breathing in phytoncides. And phytoncides are compounds that plants release to protect themselves from pathogens. When we breathe them in, Dr. Lee's research has shown it boosts our immune systems. And then you want to engage all your senses. On forest bathing walks as guides, we will often, we give like a series of what we call invitations to people. And one of the first ones we give is notice what's in motion. And when you focus your mind on what's in motion, it sounds like such a simple thing, and it is. But it's a powerful mindfulness exercise. You become totally immersed in what you see moving around you, whether it's the movement of the clouds, the breeze. You'll notice how fickle the breezes can be, how this tree can be trembling here and still here, and you just really tune into that. Any insects that you see, try it sometime. Try that, just say to yourself, right now, for the next few minutes, I am simply going to notice what's in motion. And then smells. Smells are just such powerful, they powerfully evoke memories of childhood, of romantic interludes. They're just delicious. We have so many wonderful twigs. We can do a little scratch and snip with the spice bush, the sassafras, the tulip tree, sweet gum. This was a guide in Okatama who, she had a day job, a tech job in Tokyo during the week. And then she came out to Okatama on the weekends to lead forest bathing walks. This was a walk, the whole walk was focused on fragrances. And then sounds. If you cup your ears like that, you can really magnify the sound. And I learned a really cool trick from a guide up in the Japanese Alps, where you turn your back to flowing water, you close your eyes, and you cup your ears in the front. And it just, your whole world comes down to the sound of that water. You can see there on the right, our guides gave us stethoscopes so we could listen to the water. They're really into this in Japan. And touch. I mean, we are all touch deprived now. Even if we live in households where there are other people we can touch, we want to hug our friends and family members. We want to touch them. We can still touch the plants. And, especially now, it is very therapeutic to touch the plants and hug the trees. And then on a forest bathing walk, it's really wonderful to just spend some time communing with a tree. To my mind, communion with a tree is one of the most powerful nature connections you can have. This was my absolute favorite moment when I was in Japan. Our guide had carried these silver mats in just a fabric grocery bag. He gave them to us. We were in this forest. This is a Hinoki cypress tree that's 300 years old. And he gave us the mats and we lay down, and it had rained in the morning. It had stopped raining, but when the breeze blew, raindrops would fall from this tree was over 100 feet tall, and raindrops would fall from the crown of the tree and come down and land on our faces. And I was lying there and watching raindrops fall from the crown of that tree all the way down to my face. It was just sheer magic, a moment I'll never forget. And, you know, I loved all the guides that we had in Japan. These two were my favorite. Kariki-san, who is hugging the tree, is one of the most joyful people I have ever met. He did so many fun things with us. He had us like walking in icy water till our ankles just felt like they were being sliced by knives. And then he had found this warm mud puddle that we could stomp in after the icy water. He was just wonderful. People come from all over Europe and Asia to train with him. And the young man on the left is Akira-san. He's Kariki's apprentice, and they were both wonderful. That walk was in the Japanese Alps, way up north of Nagano. And then closer to home, this is my friend Claire Kelly. When I trained as a forest therapy guide in 2016, I was the first guide in the Washington area. We now have almost 50 certified forest therapy guides in this area. Claire was the number 2. When she lived in Washington, she now lives in Tucson, Arizona. But when she lived in Washington, she led forest bathing walks for Friends of the National Arboretum. I don't know if any of you were lucky enough to go on one of her walks. Some of them she led in the moonlight. And these walks became really popular. For 3 nights when the moon was full, she would lead forest bathing walks in the Arboretum in the moonlight. This was another wonderful day in northern Japan. When you're on a forest bathing walk, if you have any body of water near you, it's really wonderful to wade in the water, to, you know, just sit by the water, listen to the water. Being near water is always therapeutic. And then on your walk, when you've, you know, engaged all your senses, and you're kind of ready now to go back to daily life, you want to have like a little bit of a transition. So when we're leading walks for groups, we will have a little tea ceremony and read some poetry and talk about what we're going to take back to our daily life from this experience. So I encourage you at the close of your walk to just kind of acknowledge the time that you've spent in nature, the quiet time, and think about what you want to take back with you. And if you have a little snack or some tea, that's a wonderful thing to do. So I got to move along here. You know, I think it's really important to connect with nature all times of day and night. And then this is one of my favorite Thoreau quotes. It is worth the while to walk in wet weather. The earth and leaves are strewn with pearls. And it's walking in the rain, or when the rain has just stopped and the sun is coming through the canopy, is one of life's sheer delights. So when I was working on the book, as I said, I interviewed a lot of people, and one of them was our dear, dear, dear Stephanie Mason. I love that picture of her. And I quoted her in the book. I love this quote of hers. You don't have to mind social distancing with a violet. You can bend down and peer into its flowering face and breathe deeply of its scent. Says it all. So, you know, as a nature writer, all of my books have started just with a sense of wonder, you know, like that process of falling in love, and a notebook. And Tina will remember, if you can see me on your screen, Tina Theme Brown and I, who spent 10 years working on our Sugarloaf books, I was always carrying one of these speckled composition books. I had some that were green, some that were purple, and some that were black. This is from Rock Creek Park, fall of 2007. I have, you know, like 10 of them for Sugarloaf. And I just record all my observations in here, and I'll often have a lot of questions that I want to get answered later on, and I just have notes about the weather and all the things that I see and experience. And then if you're artistically inclined, you may want to, you know, take a drawing pad into the field with you. And I think all of us kind of do a combination of writing and art, and some people are more on the art side and some more on the writing side. And then years ago, Carol Bergman, who a lot of you know, she's led lots of walks for ANS, and she was the forest ecologist and botanist for Montgomery County for many years. And years ago, she said to me, "You can't have too many field guides." And I could not agree with her more. You can see how beaten up my field guides are here. My binoculars on the right, my little hand lenses on the left, and then in the center is Newcomb's wildflower guide. And because I taught summer wildflowers at A&S for 9 years, and some of my former students are on this call, I just want to talk a little bit. I have these quotes that I found from one of my class presentations. And I just want to talk a little bit about the Newcomb Wildflower Guide. It has a key in it that when it works, it's just so delightful, but it doesn't always work. So it can be kind of frustrating. And in the class, we struggled with Newcomb. We had our successes and our failures. And I have this quote here from Carol Weldon. I believe she's on the call.
Melanie, before we go too deep away from the forest bathing, I wanted to share a question from Karen. She would like to know, where are you offering virtual forest bathing classes?
Yes, I'm doing them for Smithsonian Associates, and I'm doing 4 in the fall, 2 in September and 2 in October. If you're a member of Smithsonian Associates, you get a discount and you get the information, but you can go on their website. They have not been posted yet. They'll probably be posted in late August.
I think that if you share those links with us, we will be happy to send them to the audience today.
Sure, I'd be happy to share any links or any information that people would like after the talk.
Oh, sorry.
Another one? Yeah.
Yes, Diana wanted to comment that a student of hers with autism and severe anxiety used the technique of touching a plant to calm herself during a stressful meeting once, and it really worked. And Tina still remembers those composition books and your black felt pens. Happy memories of your notes in situ.
Oh, those are all such wonderful comments. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy to hear about your friend with autism who connected with plants and got comfort from it. That's just so great to hear. So do we have any more questions about forest bathing?
That will be all.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is what Carol Weldon wrote, and I quoted her in every subsequent wildflower class that was at the Wood End Mansion. I know a lot of you have taken natural history field studies classes there. So Carol wrote, "I came to actually enjoy keying. It is like a puzzle or a game of Clue. Once we eliminate Colonel Mustard in the library with the revolver, it must be Miss Scarlet in the parlor with the lead pipe." And you see on the left, there are 2 little hand lenses there. And this is what we plant nerds use all the time when we're in the field. We get down close to look at the flowers and look at the little hairs on the leaves. And another quote that I used in my wildflower class, this is from a book called Drifting into Darien by Janice Ray. And she wrote, "I'm going to give you some advice right away about botanists. Never go out in the woods with them. Never go anywhere. If you do, you'll never get to where you're going. They want to stop every few feet to bend down and look at something. They carry little magnifying glasses with them so they can count parts of a flower so small they'd get lost in a thimble." And that really sums it up. That is what we do. So these are kind of the old-fashioned ways, keying out with Newcomb or with another guide. There are newer ways that are quicker and in some ways more efficient for identifying plants and other living things. This is Anna Ka'ahanui, who I mentioned before. She did a wonderful iNaturalist presentation. iNaturalist is an app that you can download, and it helps you to identify things you find in the field. So you don't have to go through the whole Scarlet and Colonel Mustard routine. And she's going to be giving another presentation on citizen science, or what I think she's calling it community science. And through this app, you can actually participate in global data collecting. So, and not just through this app, but she will be talking about other ways that when you're out in the field identifying as a naturalist, as an amateur, you can participate in scientific research. It's very exciting. And then family time in nature. I would like to read, let's see if I have time here. Yes, I'm still good here. I would like to read.
I didn't get that. Try tapping above to edit.
That was my phone, sorry. When I wrote the book, Stephanie Bozzo, who is the preschool director at A&S, was very kind to agree to do an interview with me. And she wrote about, how wonderful it is to be out in the field with children. And she can say this so much better than I could, that I just really want to share this with you. I asked her, how would you advise families to make the most of their time in nature for learning and enjoyment during the crisis? And this is what she wrote. Truly, the best and most powerful place to connect with our children is in nature. Oftentimes, it is much easier to say yes to children's ideas and requests outdoors than it is indoors. When children are in nature, everything falls into place. Nature is the great equalizer. If a child needs to run, jump, climb, balance, or twirl, there is plenty of space and endless opportunities to do so. If a child needs the pull to focus intently and sit still and observe their surroundings, nature offers the perfect opportunity. Whatever children need for self-regulation and inner peace can be found in nature. Sharing whatever brings us joy in nature with our families, be it a walk in the woods, climbing a tree, going for a spring blossom hunt, taking a bike ride, or doing some backyard birding, is a wonderful way to connect and share experiences together. Children don't need help finding what they want to explore in nature. All they really need is a trusted adult with whom to share these joyous discoveries. Let children lead the way to show us what soothes their souls in nature, and chances are it's exactly what will soothe our adult souls as well. And isn't that the truth? There's nothing better than following children around and just seeing where they will lead you when you're outdoors with them. And, during this time, I think there's just been much more interest in growing our own food for all kinds of reasons, for having that physical connection with the earth. I want to read one more quick quote from Tina Theme Brown about that. Tina wrote, I had my hands in the dirt today. I have a connection to the earth and somehow need to be in there, tossing compost, pulling weeds out of it, and prepping garden beds. Tina has an amazing garden in Barnesville, Maryland. I wanted to plant too. I don't really have enough sunlight in my yard. I just have a few tomato and pepper plants and lots of herbs. But, this is something that just the interest in growing food, I think, has been very high lately. And also in foraging. And some of you were on the call last night with Alonzo Avogadis, on the Naturalist Hour presentation. He was talking about ethnobotany and foraging. And he talked about foraging for all of these plants. On the left are violets. I ate so many violet flowers and leaves this spring. And also on the right are redbud flowers. I ate so many redbud flowers. They're all high in vitamin C, and the violets leaves have vitamin C and vitamin A. And then berries. What can be better than picking berries? I'm going to be up in the White Mountains soon, picking wild berries on the mountains. One of the exciting things in the medical profession is that there are doctors now that are taking nature seriously as therapy for their patients. And this is Dr. Robert Czar. He is a friend of mine. He founded Park RX America. He's a pediatrician, and this is a group of doctors who prescribe nature to their patients. They have gentle ways of doing it. That's his prescription pad. They find out what people like to do, and especially with his kids, he'll find out, what do you like to do in nature, and then just encourage more of it. And it's just a wonderful thing. And there's also this whole new connection and partnership between the public health community and park administrators. And it's such a win-win because it's good for people's health to be out in nature, and it's good for the parks for us to be connected with nature so that we are better and more considerate stewards. In normal days, we will be doing forest bathing walks again all over Washington. This is an ANS walk in Rock Creek Park during more connective times. And I lead walks behind the Smithsonian Castle. Here we are in the Moongate Garden on the left, having tea at the close of our forest bathing walk. On the right, we're in the bonsai, among the bonsai trees, and we're doing that trick that I learned up in the Alps where you stand with your back to the water. It's just a fountain, and we are closing our eyes and magnifying the sound of the water. I don't know if you all know that the U.S. Botanic Garden at the foot of Capitol Hill now has a regional garden. It's a native plant garden. They have Piedmont and coastal plain plants of the mid-Atlantic states. It's a wonderful garden. In normal times, I lead botanical bliss walks there, they call them. Whoops. And then this was a wonderful walk I led last summer along Oxen Run, which is right on the border of DC and Prince George's County, and it flows into Oxen Cove in the Potomac River. This group is a group of friends of Oxen Run. We had the best time. You can see we found these wonderful stones on the walk. We were holding them to our faces and to our hearts. It was great. And then I love leading forest bathing walks at Wood End. This is a prickly pear plant in the Blair Native Plant Garden on the left and a sassafras tree on the right. I have a walk scheduled for this fall. We'll just have to see. I was supposed to lead 4 forest bathing walks at Wood End this year, and we had the winter one. And Sugarloaf Mountain. If you can get out to Sugarloaf and climb to the top of the mountain on a summer day, what a delight. Tina is lucky enough to live near it. Charlotte lives in West Virginia. Being in the mountains in the summer is so wonderful. Ordinarily, I go to Aspen in June and lead forest bathing walks in this aspen grove for the Aspen Center for Environmental Studies. We do the walks barefoot. We drink water from the stream. What more can I say? And then I also, in ordinary times, lead September trips to the Dakota Badlands, to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And it's mostly a history and natural history trip, but we also do some forest bathing along the Little Missouri River. This is my wild home, Rock Creek Park, which I dearly, dearly love in all the seasons. These are Susan Austin Roth's beautiful photographs from our book. And, I especially love Rock Creek Park in the summer, even on the hottest days. The park was created in 1890, and the trees have been left alone for 130 years. And you walk into that canopy on a hot summer day, and you're instantly cooled down. It's almost like walking into an air-conditioned room. And I saw a wood duck yesterday. I saw just one female wood duck. I didn't know why she was alone. And I also saw a great blue heron there last week. And I love it in the fall when the witch hazel blooms. We're getting close to our time here. I do want to share one more passage from the book because I think that during this time, it's really been a time for us to kind of think deeply about our own lives and also, the bigger picture, humanity's place on the earth and where we're going and what sort of actions can we take to take care of our planet and take care of ourselves. And the foreword to my book was written by my friend Wendy Paulson, who is an incredible naturalist. She lives in Chicago now. Her husband, Hank, was the Treasury Secretary, and I met her when they were in Washington, and we have stayed in touch. And she wrote about this time. She wrote this in her foreword. My hope is that when we emerge from this troubling time, people around the globe will find themselves more keenly aware of how blessed we are by the gifts of the natural world. Prairies, wetlands, forests, mountains, deserts, oceans, and all their remarkable inhabitants, as well as by wild pockets in cities and towns. Even more, I hope that the recognition of nature's value leads us to contemplate our individual and collective roles in caring for our planet, as it has for us. In the 50th anniversary year of Earth Day, in a time that feels unsettlingly bleak, committing ourselves to more active Earth stewardship seems a logical and fitting and entirely necessary outcome. And I think that is just so in line with Audubon Naturalist Society's mission as the oldest conservation organization in the area to just really contemplate deeply what our place is in the fabric of life and do what we can to protect it. Whoops. This has been a wonderful time to share nature experiences with each other. These are two friends of mine who've kept me delighted with photographs and reports of all their amazing walks around Washington. And that is a group of Canada geese in the middle. City Wildlife has a group, they're called Duck Watch, and they go around the city in the spring protecting ducklings and goslings that nest in dangerous, inconvenient places. This is a Canada goose family that's being ushered down 17th Street to Constitution Gardens. And Sandy, my friend on the left, kept sending me pictures once they arrived safely and thrived in Constitution Gardens. Imagine you can smell this magnolia. I don't know, Saranella, I wanted to do like a very quick little forest bathing meditation, but we are out of time. Should I skip that and just go to the close? Any questions?
I would like for the audience to let us know, because I can stay here with you as long as you need to.
Do you guys have a couple more minutes? Yeah? Okay, great. So what I would like to do, this is my little Himalayan singing bowl. And those of you who are in my wildflower class, remember that I used to ring this bell to get your attention when you were keying plants out. And now I take it on forest bathing walks, and I use it in between invitations to just, kind of ring in the next thing. So I am going to ring my bell and invite you to close your eyes and imagine that you're in a favorite place. And it can be a place that you remember from childhood. It can be a place you go every day now, and just go there. Just go there for the few moments and then I will ring the bell again. And I'd like to close with a poem by Mary Oliver. It's called When I Am Among the Trees. When I Am Among the Trees by Mary Oliver. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light and to shine. So these are some other forest bathing books that I recommend. And I just want to close with this quote from Theodore Roosevelt. It's part of it is hidden here from me. I hope I can remember. It is an incalculable added pleasure to anyone's sum of happiness if he or she grows to know, even slightly and imperfectly, how to read and enjoy the wonder book of nature. So thank you all so much. Thank you, ANS. Thank you, Saranella. Thank you, everyone. Do we have any more questions?
Well, Melanie, this is Claire. That was wonderful. Total great break from the workday. I think you need, but except you need to do this every week for me, okay? You just sort of, yeah, I am also interested in information on the classes that are going to be online.
Okay,
So,
great. Claire, I can't see your face, but I am so happy to hear your voice. I think the last time I saw you, we were in a field in Comus taking pictures of New York ironweed and mist.
yes, that was.
Do I have that right?
That was so much fun.
And that is still my laptop screensaver, is a picture I took that day with you.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I remember that. I remember that well.
That was wonderful. So happy you were here today.
Oh, thank you.
What other resources could I share with you guys?
I would love to take that trip in Japan. Oh my gosh. And do that certification. I would love to know about that.
You know, one of the interesting things about, I've had a lot of business trips to Tokyo and a little bit to Kyoto. And in Tokyo, I think one of the reasons that they so appreciate nature is that if you live in Tokyo, you have so many other people there with you. But what was really interesting is that the Shinto shrines that are in Tokyo, there are some beautiful places there where you can feel like you're in the forest, right in the middle of hugely populated Tokyo. It was just amazing. And then you can go to these cafes where they have these different animals. Like I went to an owl cafe when I was there, where you could sit with 22 owls and a cup of tea, and it was awesome. It's a very different world.
Melanie, this is Tina.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, it's so good to see you and hear your voice, Mel. I miss you.
I miss
I
you
do
too.
remember the composition books. You guys should know that this woman can write very fast, very legibly, and get down a ton of naturalist information in like 2.5 lines, whereas I'm writing it out so slowly. So many good memories of being in the field with you, Mel. I was curious if you could share with us, before you and I and many of us have always been out in nature and loving it, how do you feel your experience is different after studying and training to be a forest therapy guide?
It's really not that different, Tina, because, you know, my favorite moments in the field are always the quiet moments, you know, when we just give into that sense of awe and we're speechless. And you know, you and I have shared many of those moments in the field where we're just blown away by the beauty. And so, you know, I feel like the forest bathing just focuses on that, you know, it focuses on that sense of awe and wonder. And it's just not that different, you know, it enhances it. You know, I think it is different in that you do spend more quiet time, and you know, you enhance that sense of awe. So that's the part about it that's different, but it's what we do, you know, it's just who we are. We're forest bathers by nature. It's just a frame, you know, it's like a frame for something that I've always valued all my life. I mean, I have so many memories of childhood, and I'm sure you all do too, of climbing trees and lying under trees and looking at the clouds and just being enraptured by the beauty and wonder of nature. It's what Rachel Carson writes about in The Sense of Wonder. It's just so close to my heart.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Hi, Karen.
Hi. Nice to see you again after yesterday's presentation. I just want to say, when I've gone on the forest bathing walks with you, one thing it does, even though I've spent a lot of time in nature, it really helped me focus my attention more. And the whole process that you go through helped me focus on what was around me and really spend the time looking close by, which even though I've been out, I hadn't really done to that extent. And that was really helpful.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Karen. Yeah, the focus is a powerful thing. When you're really focused, when you're focused on noticing what's in motion, if you're focused on something very close up, it's a powerful thing. No question about it. And I have fond memories of those walks we've done together, Karen.
Yes, and I have a
They were
picture.
wonderful.
Yep, I have a picture of a grasshopper from the trip up in Comus, and it's on one of those big bales of hay.
Yes.
And I took a picture of it. I know you're supposed to keep your cell phone away, but I like to do it to capture and then look at the same thing later. And I still look at that. And I spent such time looking at this one grasshopper on it. And that was great because they were all over the place, but this one and I communicated.
One, yes. That is my cue to close with another Mary Oliver poem. It's The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Do you know this poem, Karen? The summer day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean. The one who has flung herself out of the grass. The one who is eating sugar out of my hand. Who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down. Who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Perfect.
That is such a beautiful closing.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for
you.
staying with us.
Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful summer day. It's beautiful out and the air is very clean and cool. It's not cool, but it's clean and clear.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.